What's up, everybody? This is your man, Electrician, and we back at it with another video.
Perfect.
And today we're going to be talking about GFIs. That's right, GFI is the topic today, and we got some right here. And we're going to explain to you guys how to wire up a GFI, and we're going to explain to you what they do and pretty much the mechanism behind it, right? And this is for an everyday homeowner that just wants to learn about what a GFI does, where to find them, if it's tripped, where could they be at. Let's get into it. Let's go. That's right. So today, that's what we're talking about, is the GFIs. And the first thing you're going to see on one of these GFI is, if you turn it around, you're going to see something that says line on it, right? Line. And you're going to see something that says load on it. Well, these GFIs have to be in pairs, right? Because they come in pairs. So if electricity comes in a pair and the electricity leaves in a pair, that's the way this here can read the electricity flowing through it. Okay, because that's essentially what it does. It just lets electricity flow through it. And when electricity flows through it, now it doesn't only just flow through it, it reads what flows through it, right? So if you have 120 volts coming into this and it leaves 120 volts, then it wants to have to return the same amount of current, right? If it does not return the same amount of current, then it believes that there's a leakage somewhere, down to the milliamp. So then this trips. Boop, little toggle comes out, breaks the line in here, you know? So that's why they have to come in pairs, right? A lot of times wiring up these GFIs, sometimes you get them mixed up and they will not work that way, right? If you have wires, a black wire, a white wire coming in the back of it, and those are flipped, it won't work. Say you have it on the load means what is loading onto here. And those are on the line, it won't work. So you need to know what your line is and you need to know what your load is, so you do not get these mixed up. So it can properly read what the flow of electricity that flows through it is returning back. Because electricity works in a circle. It has to go and it has to come back. It has to go, it has to come back. If it doesn't come back, then it won't make the full connection. It won't work. So now that you know what a GFI does and how to wire it, let's take a look at a GFCI breaker. So this here is a GFCI breaker. Essentially does the same thing. So you have the breaker ties to the bus bar, then has this pigtail here, right? So this pigtail here reads what electricity comes back to the panel, you know? So if you were to turn this on, you'll leave electricity out of here, your black wire, but it needs to return through your white wire. So your white wire would then connect back to the breaker, coming back through this pigtail wire that connects to your neutral bar on your panel. And in here is where the reading goes. It reads what type of electricity leaves, and then it also reads what type of electricity returns. If it does not return the same amount that it leaves, it'll think it's a leakage somewhere. And that's what'll make this thing trip. If you take a look at a regular breaker is only controlled by heat. This only triggered by heat. There's a little filament inside of this here that swells and breaks a lever. And when that lever breaks, that's when you get the tripping sound. Cuts off all your power. A lot of times it goes into in the middle position and you can't reset it forward. You'd have to go firmly all the way back to reset your breaker. So this is a normal breaker and how to reset a normal breaker and what it does. This is a GFCI breaker and what it does. This is a GFI outlet and what it does. Just remember, you're going to have line and load. Make sure the line is coming from your panel or has electricity. The load never has electricity because you're going to provide it through your line. So make sure the line comes in, the load leaves. This is another thing to remember too. Every manufacturer puts their line and load in a different place. They're not always at the same spot. So if you replace this receptacle from your home and you took them both out and you put the same back in, but you changed the manufacturer, it might not work. You'll need to pay attention to the back to see where your arrows are pointing, Because sometimes here, you have your line down here, you have your load up here. But some manufacturers will put them on the side here, where your line will be on this side and your load will be on the other side here. So you will need to pay attention to the back to know what your line is and to know what your load is. Also, coming out of the box, you'll need to test 120 volts, which is your line, and the no voltage is your load. But the wires on the neutrals can't cross. The load has to be paired up and the line has to be paired up. Those pairs come in here and those pairs come over there. They cannot be crossed because it won't read it properly if they're crossed. They need to come in pairs for it to read the voltage properly. All right, guys, a few places GFCIs could be at. I tend to notice that the bathrooms themselves sometimes are on that circuit there. So a bathroom can control another bathroom. But what I do notice is that most of the homes being built now, well, in Nevada at least, a lot of them are controlled from the garage. So you'll have a GFI in the garage that controls your bathroom receptacles. I've even seen them in closets too, as low as closets. I've seen GFIs in backyards. I've seen GFIs just being pigtailed. So pigtailed to another GFI, to another GFI, to another GFI. So you got to go down the line and find all these GFIs. I've seen that before where someone thinks you have to put a GFI on every single one. You do not need to put a GFI on every single one. As long as your line comes in, everything that's leaving will be GFCI'd. Because remember, this here itself, it's like a heart monitor. So it's going to be reading the electricity going up and down like a wave, because electricity is a wave. It'll read it like a heart monitor. And like I said, anything down the line, if any electricity does not flow back properly, this master, you would call it, right? Because it's ahead of the line, it's ahead of everything, will read it because it needs to come back. It all will leave and then it come back through this one. So that's why you have your line. Your line, you only need one GFCI per line. So anything that leaves on the load side will be GFCI'd. Okay, so that's another thing to remember there. But like I said, the garages can control the outside receptacles and can sometimes control. Sometimes you might have a few GFIs in the garage. One control the outside receptacles. One could control your bathrooms. Sometimes your bathrooms control your bathrooms. Sometimes you'll have them in your closets. So it's really up to how good the electrician is with his tick tracer to be able to find that GFCI. Because a lot of times what I do is go straight to the panel, check every breaker. If every breaker has 120 volts on it from the backside here, from back here. So I make sure every breaker's on, check 120 volts right there. And if every breaker has 120 volts, then I'll check whatever other things and stuff like that. But like the neutrals, make sure everything's tied at the panel. So if I know everything's good at the panel, then it's a search for the GFCI. And a lot of times they're going to be behind garage closets, because a lot of people have closets in their garage that are blocking every single wall. So they're going to be, remember, code, think code, right? These houses are built to code. So you're going to have a receptacle like every couple feet. So you think there's going to be one here, there's going to be one right there, there's going to be two on that wall, two on that wall. So if these things are all covered up, you go in a garage and everything is covered, you have to think that it's going to be behind that wall somewhere. You know, those garages, and a telltale sign would be that one of your receptacles is out, either outside, in your garage, somewhere along the line. You're going to notice other things are out that are GFCI required. So like pretty much you're going to have a GFCI anywhere it's wet, right? So if any bathrooms, kitchens, washing areas, anything that has to do with grills outside, all those are going to be on a GFCI. You checked all the breakers, you checked everything, it's a GFCI problem, I guarantee it. And or it could be a loose neutral somewhere down the line, but I don't. These things right here are your number one calls that we get as electricians. Where to find it? It went bad, it doesn't work properly, we'll replace them, but finding it is the key. So that's what GFCIs do. I hope this helped anybody out there with the GFCI problem.